Oh, we're talking about another female socio. This is crazy. This one, I'll tell you the mindset of this one. This one's something else. This is another flaunter. So it's a married New York City teacher who once posted helping kids understand consent. That alone, um, it's like a playoff, right? Because we want kids to understand what consent is, right? And kids can't consent when they're minors, yet there's this dual messaging going on anyway. But if you're saying that and you're a predator, isn't it bragging? Or I'm going to be helping some kids understand consent. Like something like that, right? It's like I'm talking to this one kid and, I'm saying, are you down with this? And they're like, sure, and technically they can't consent, right? And so it's almost like that, right? Do you guys see that? The brain of a socio is quite tricky at times because, I mean, if you've seen that comment, I don't know if you would be flagged by it necessarily because we all talk about this, right? So like just saying that it wouldn't be a flag. I don't know what else is in our story which could flag it. So here's my thing about all this stuff. It's like the more you know, the more the flags you're going to see and you're going to catch, and then you have to pay attention. Because I'll tell you, some of these people, and even the Britney thing, they play characters a lot. And so when they do that, they'll start manipulating the story all to hell. And start doing these erratic things, right? This person was like this, and then all of a sudden, they see a need to use them as a pawn next, so then they'll go back. It's crazy. The whole mindset of them, and it's all, there's like child abuse or neglect or cuddling and additional mental illness, like that stuff. So it's so, it can be very intricate on how they do things. But yeah, this one here. Um, so this is a Queen middle school teacher was arrested Tuesday for allegedly raping a 14-year-old student. And then after once posting on social media about helping kids understand consent. Like I'm really helping this kid understand consent. Yeah. And they're such assholes at times too. Like that type of thing. It's like a bragging thing. Just like the serial killer, right? He's like, have you heard about, those killings and, this place and that gigolo thing or whatever? And he's like, well, what if they're just, it's that same concept. It's just kind of and I guess it's part of the narcissist part of it. Yeah, Melissa Rockin and C, a married 33-year-old teacher at Corona Arts and Science Academy, was arrested over disturbing allegations around 10:30 a.m. in Queen. It wasn't clear whether the alleged rape happened on or off campus. Oh boy. They're charged with rape, crimes, criminal sexual act, and acting in a manner injurious to a child less than 17. 17 is a kid too, so again, your state right there needs to get their shit together. Ironically, on October 2021, posted on Facebook, a page that appears to belong to them, highlighted how to help kids understand consent. Hmm. Part of the PSA infographic advises adults to ask if child would like to give a relative a hug rather than demanding that they hug their relative. Yeah, okay, yeah, so there was a whole thing where all these like rich parents like literally had a problem with this too, and I was like, no, you need to ask consent. You need to teach kids consent. Like you don't. But here's the problem with that. If they're looking at kids as being able to consent, like these child predators do, and they still don't look at it as being just general rape because you could lure kids into anywhere, and that's kidnapping as well, by the way. That's not included in these topics, which needs to be. It's the same thing. So if some adult tries to get with a kid that's a minor, that's under 18, not their pedo state numbers, which it could be even higher. But anyway, but so you can't consent even going into somewhere with somebody else, right? So that is kidnapping, and that's very common. And that was something that they didn't teach at school or anywhere actually. And the only version you got of it was, oh, some guy comes up and ties you up and throws you in a car, like some bullshit, right? Or if you were like a little tiny tot, let's say like three, like there's no age, like you don't even know, right? Some little kid and it's like, oh, they got into a car with a stranger. That's your fault. You shouldn't go with the stranger. That's how they taught it. And it's so unreal. But kidnapping is the same thing and it's the same mindset as a rapist. So, and it's the same thing. You can't consent to go off with some people or that unless, like you're supposed to have your parents like know where you're going and all these different things, right? And nobody should be taking children into their home and not reporting the kid. Like, that's why I said, when I go back into my earlier stuff, I was just like, that's insane. I would never do that'd be like today. I'm gonna take this kid into my house alone without anybody knowing. I would never do that. And I don't even know the parent would do that. I mean, I just, there's so much to that. But anyway, also, it also advised parents to make it clear to their children. Okay, now this was kind of weird. It also advised parents to make it clear to their children that they should not keep secrets from their family. Okay, what if it's their family raping their own kids? Their family that is abusing them, which then therefore would possibly cause them to actually have external friends that they don't want their damn parents to be a part of because they're abusive parents, right? These people are so far behind on these topics, and there's like a cluster F of everybody. Like, there's these like atheist or these people that are like, oh, they're anti-sex or some bullshit. I go, this is not about sex. This is about you taking advantage of children. So the church was very heavy on raping children. It wasn't any other way around. They wanted to rape kids because they wanted to get them as property for men. That was it. Like, and so the mindset of all this is such a hot mess. Like, and them not talking about kidnapping. I'm trying to talk about kidnapping. Kidnapping is a real thing and it happens all the time. Like, all the time. Like, I had multiple, like, in my story. And I assure you that if people actually understood it, they would go, oh, yeah, that happened to me actually a million times. But some people think about it like this, like, what? That's common. That's no big deal. Like, seriously, okay? So they're the problem, not me. So men or women do not have the right to just randomly take a kid anywhere and not tell anybody. Okay, that's a big one. So that's kidnapping. Even if the kid's like, okay, cool, I'll go with this teacher in a car. A kidnapping. What the hell's wrong with you people? Yeah, so they didn't clarify, they didn't go into any of that. So when you're talking about consent, the topic of kidnapping should actually be involved. Okay, so back to this. Not helpful. Give Nana a hug. Tickling after they say stop. Actually, that whole... oh, that's another one. That's another one that's actually in that realm of of the spanking one. Though I wouldn't necessarily call that abuse, but it could be a sexual abuse from an adult because they're getting close to the kid, right? So, that one is on the fence. Like, your parents could just be doing it because they're just being playful parents, right? They're not trying to like sexually abuse their kid, but they could be. And then, but then also later that thing has turned into that there's men that actually are turned on by doing that. hmm So, because they don't talk about sex ed properly, like it's very limited. They don't go into the outer regions here of some other behaviors that are sexual or can be sexual. And so you need to be able to learn all that. So then you can gauge on, okay, I probably have a problem with some teachers tickling my kid. Like, I don't know why a teacher would be tickling my kid. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And they're things that people brush off And that's just another way for them to get close and touch them, right? So as I talked about the massage thing, that was like a number one predator move. Like I could not believe that because like in a lot of the stories you'll pull up, one of the things that they do to get really close to the child first, they're like, oh, a little massage, or even to adult women, they do it. But yeah, these are our moves before we prey on you and pounce you and try to rape you. Totally. Because they're trying to get you comfortable with their hands all over you already. So, yeah. So telling them to keep secrets, even silly ones. Um, I really think, okay, I was like, wait, I'm just like thinking of this. The secrets. Okay, so in one aspect, I can actually see a legitimate reason for a kid like to not talk to their parents about something and talk to other people, such as, okay, one of the things that they did this was if their child got pregnant because they probably got raped by somebody and then their parents would have forced them to have a kid or something, so then they talk to other adults, right? And they do not talk to the parents because the parents would abuse it or force them to have a kid or whatever the bullshit. So that's one. Another one, maybe if they're gay, LGBTQ, because their parents will be abusive or do something horrible, right? So you wouldn't talk to the parents, or their parents are just generally abusive, and then they're talking to other people, right? So yeah, it's not a that one's like a weird one because yeah, there was a lot of kids that there's no way you would tell your parents any of that because they were abusive, right? So um and it's not about like raping the kid or trying to do anything like that. So there's some other external things there. So you can't blanket that because these parents are abusive pieces of crap. But making silly names for private parts. Well, parents do that. I don't, I was like, that was a new one. I haven't heard that. I mean, I hadn't even thought about that in a million years. So I was like, yeah, hoo hoo. What was that? Somebody, eh, I don't know if that would be anything like because adults still say things like that. Like, I don't know. That one's weird. Okay, so then helpful. Okay, would you like to give name a hug? Okay, respecting if the answer is no. Yeah, no problem there. Narrative out loud. You said stop, and I hear you are done with tickling. We don't keep secrets in our family. If anybody tells you to keep a secret, you let us know. I was like, no. It depends. Like I said, like that's one of those that in some countries, if you told the parents, they would murder their kid. Like, so it depends on what they're telling you to keep a secret about, right? So, okay, as I just kind of went through a list of things there. Yeah, so if it's like a teacher's like, let's hook up, and they touch you and they say don't tell, like, yeah. But again, your parents could be the sexual abusers, so what the hell? Like they don't even add this in there. Like it's like a non-thought, like, oh, your own parents wouldn't touch you. It's the same thing when they're like, go to the cops. I'm like, well, the cops are rapists. So what are you going on about? And then you tell them, oh, the cops raped somebody or did this thing. And they're like, you need to go to the cops. It's like this brain dead thing of these like nutcase, like lunatic religious people. And it's like, it just goes one ear out the other. Like they're just airheads. Like it's almost like that. It's like a tune out. And it is so annoying. And if you guys notice, like I'm really big into learning about the thought process of people, and I'll literally sit with it and going, okay, his brain's going like this, and so he's coming up with the right. These people are the most dumbest pieces of crap I've ever talked to in my life. When I'm trying to report stuff like that, you'll say something like that, and it goes, whew, and then it's like, did you not just listen to me, you idiot? Like literally, I have to go there because it's like, did you not hear that? Like I don't know. So you're telling me to go to the rapist? I'm literally telling you that they're gang member rapist or what, whatever the story is, right? And they're like, you need to go to the cops. It's like, Yeah, so they're doing the same thing here about the parental thing. Like, there's no concept that your parents are raping you. No concept that your parents would probably abuse you if they knew you were gay. No concept of it. They're so, it's so, that's why I talked about the spanking thing, because they're so dumb. Like, they didn't. I'm like, oh, so you want to continually sexually abusing your kids? That's cool. We need to beat them more. We need to take their pants down and get to their naked butt. We need to let every adult that we don't even know touch my kid's butt. And it's like, mm, yes, guys, it's all use anatomically correct names for body parts. Oh, I don't know if that even matters. Like, does anybody else? Can anybody give me a legitimate reason, like, why, whatever the hell you call it? Because even adults have different names. Like, I don't know. That one, I don't know. Like, explain that one to me, because that one's just, I don't know why that is. I don't know. I mean, they should know what our body parts are, but people have pet names. It's like pet names. I don't know. A DOE spokesperson reportedly said Rockin NC, who earns about $85K last year, was reassigned from school pending the outcome of her case. The alleged behavior is extremely concerning and wholly unacceptable. And adding that if they're convicted, they will move to have her terminated. Oh, they haven't terminated her yet, so. Yeah, I guess first you have to find out it's true. Do some kids lie? Sure, not a hell of a lot of them, but in this case, if it were true and everything, because it probably is, because there's a lot of these son of a bitches too. But I kind of want to, like, if I can find these female ones, because we're talking about Brittany and her pal over there, her other one, big time. The actions, you gotta pay attention to these people. I'm saying, I go, this one's a little hard because I don't know. It would have to be something external besides her doing the braggart thing, like, we're helping kids understand consent, that thing. Like, you don't know. So you need, like, further flagging, like something something else. You need something else to flag it. So, like, I want to learn, like, when I go through these cases, and I'll try to see, like, all the history of it, and then see if I can find anything else in it, such as the church thing, because we all know that they were all abusers. So everybody that had a family like that, you got abused in some way, shape, or form. But then you're looking at, okay, what's happening outside of it and stuff. And people used to joke about that church thing too. They're like, oh, the pastor's kid's always the worst. And I'm like, well, there's something to that, right? So the stuff around it, in this other case too that I pulled up, I was like, I don't know why people think that's the greatest thing to pull up. They were a great kid because they went to church. I'm like, that doesn't mean crap, dude. Did you meet the church kids that I hung out with? It's like, they were atrocious. They were atrocious. Like, they're literally, like, I thought, like, I feel bad. Like, I actually have empathy and all these, the normal things going on. And so, but as a kid, you sometimes kind of throw it out the window, like, you don't care, like, some things, right? And I was talking about how we all have these pathy behaviors sometimes, like, everybody does. It's not a thing where, like, nobody's ever been pathy in their life. And mostly as kids, because you're learning, they're kind of like depathifying you. That's kind of like my view of it. It's almost like they're, like, trying to make you not a feral animal, like, technically, because the ones that, if you just let them go, do all these really horrific things, right? And so what you're trying to do is instill, care about other humans, don't kill anyone, like, don't do you're trying to do that. And you'll notice even just in nature, like, the feral animals, they act, quite differently than when they're, like, domesticated, and you give them a lot of love, and they're not out just randomly attacking you, right? They're not randomly attacking you, unlike the feral animal. So you're kind of trying to do this like depathifying. That's the only way I could explain it, by for adulthood, so they don't go out being rabid in the public. But because of certain abuses, or the lack of whatever, um then they become this type of thing. It's crazy because this one seems like they're totally bragging, like they have an ego, like this massive ego. And which I don't know if they all have that. I mean they all have the ego thing, right? The narcissist part, but some have it like so out of this world that they think they're God, like that thing. Not thinking like you were put on planet Earth and you might be your own God, but like they actually think like they're the greatest thing on Earth. And and then some start thinking that they were special, and that they were a prophet sent from wherever. But the narcissist part would get you to go there. Like you think you're totally above everybody else and you want to be treated as something beyond planet Earth. Um, yeah, and then you'll see this kind of garbage. But to them, people are just pawns. Like they are. They don't have a thing. Typically, they don't have a care for other humans. So they're kind of just like, oh, whatever I feel like doing. So I want to like do this thing to this kid. So I don't really care like the consequences of, harming that kid. It's just, I want that kid and I'm going to just do it. Like they don't have any care about it. Or like they're sitting there trying to go for a goal, right? Which you see so and so's doing. So they'll throw him out, like they'll throw him out as a pawn and trash the hell out of him, right? And then the next day, like they'll go, oh, now I'm looking pretty bad, in the public. So I'm gonna now like show that, we're gonna get, whatever, back together with it, whatever the garbage is. That's how they view humans. Like they have no emotional care about them. It's just, oh, I probably should do that because it'll make me look better in public, or I want to get something from them, right? So, oh, I'm gonna randomly call them up today and to use them in some which way, and then they'll disappear. It's such a strange thing. So they'll do that. So I've had that happen to me like a bunch of times, and it's so effed up. And so there's so many effed up people, okay? There's a lot of people that have this issue. And as we're seeing, it's because of the mass child abuse. Like the mass. Like it's not, oh, just these few kids. I was like, no, everybody's totally off their damn rocker. And it isn't because they disagree with me or anything. They are seriously not right. And you see why. Like there's an actual explanation to it. But some are worse than others. And this is a pretty bad one, I would say. So, yeah, I mean, we do have to focus on this because that's crazy. Like in her mind, she's just like, well, 14's old enough. So, and there's men that have been doing this all the time. They made it legal to rape 14-year-olds. It was Christian men. That's facts. It's just facts. I don't know why they keep wanting to fight these facts. They keep trying to justify their bullshit and try to overlook that they're a bunch of male supremacists, right? Because that's what they teach. And they're like, well, the Jews. It was so crazy. I was like, reading this other thing. They're like, well, there's no such thing as Judeo-Christian. I don't know, some other thing they were going on. And I was just like, and they're like, oh, but they accepted the gays. I'm like, this is bullshit. Because if you treat women like shit, that is the tail off of why they're treated so badly. It's not any other thing. So why would they sit there and take the branch off and go, oh, these are hate crimes, but it's not a hate crime to go rape and abuse women, right? There's no thing on that. And I go, but that's the root, and that's why you would have an issue with LGBTQ, because they have a shitty view about women, right? Oh, they cannot, they're supposed to be property, right? And populate the earth. This thing, shitty, crappy, hella low, right? Because we're not all having kids. We don't need to, okay? So, and so anyway, there's just this viewpoint of why this stems off, but it's just, and I think the reason is just because that's what would happen if you're a feral piece of crap, right? So, then they start going after these groups like that, right? Because there's more stories in the media with that stuff too, but we're not getting into it. But you once you start kind of tackling all those other issues, and then you'll see the racism portions and why they're coming out, and then the LGBTQ portions. But the one thing that they're okaying is treating women like shit. Okay, because if you tackle that, you're going to really tackle those other areas, because you're not going to have that catapult to go there. But they hate women so much, they won't do it. They still call women prostitute. They still call them derogatory fucking terms. But women are very capable of being this evil Karen. Like this evil Karen. Black, white, Asian, anybody. Anybody. It does not care about your race. I've heard women of color say some of the craziest stuff too, and it's just, and men of color too, you know, the whole thing with the whip thing. I was just like, oh, is that not like kind of ringing a bell? Like you're like literally okaying your dad to act like a white slave owner to you as a child. So, you know, it's kind of things like that. So they'll say something like, you should let men do whatever they want, because if you report it, they get killed and that's your fault. Like some weird thing, like women should allow men to do whatever they want. So that's kind of the summary of that. No. Nobody should be acting racist over it. So, yeah, no. So that, it's like the two wrongs don't make a right, okay? But the tail off is somebody had a situation happen, and then, you know, and then this, oh God. I was like, I'm not even going on that story. It's just nuts. I do not have to let anybody invade my space. I don't care who they are. And if I have a problem with it, I have a right to tell people to get the hell away from me, period. So women do have that right. Unfortunately, because of MS, there's women like that are literally saying, you need to let us do what we want to your body. It's like, or, you know, whatever, invade your space, or you shouldn't have a problem with some creepy ass man, like, you know, hanging outside your house, because if you said something and something bad happens to it, the protection is of men, right? You see it. Okay. So then, and we're not talking about making crap up, but I'm saying that that's the thing. And the more you understand it, like the more you'll just start seeing it everywhere. You're like, oh shit, you know, like, so for me, it's like I go through this stuff and it's just like, what the hell? Because there's always more stuff. There's so much stuff. Education. The more you know, the better we'll be in humanity here. And you'll understand, the more you know, like on this stuff right here, the more you can get a better idea how to tackle it before it turns into a 33-year-old being a predator, right? That's what you want to stop. You don't want to get it where, oh, we're just trying to bust them after the fact, after they hurt somebody, and ignore everything else before it, where you could have stopped it before it happened. That's the whole thing about this. Like, you need, the more you know, the more you should start tackling it way, way ahead of time, so it doesn't end up here, right? And then they have like 100 victims. There you go. So I just thought I'd bring that one up because holy crap.